Behind us stands a site that many consider to be the greatest archaeological find of the modern world. Historians estimate there to be more than 8,000 armed and life-sized clay warriors.
But what most people don't know is that this army stands here for a singular purpose: to protect something even bigger and even more important. Built more than 2,000 years ago and likely filled with unimaginable riches and treasures, about 1 kilometer west from here stands China's first emperor's, Qin Shi Huang's tomb, that to this day remains completely unopened.
Historic records suggest that this tomb is defended by mechanical booby traps and rivers where liquid mercury flows. But here's the thing, would booby traps and fear really stop modern scientists from entering this site?
Well, to uncover the truth, we have decided to travel to Xi'An in China ourselves.
So for all of this to make sense, we first need to understand what was China like 2,300 years ago. And as a little hint, it had a lot of walls.
You see, quite differently from today. This area was divided into 7 smaller kingdom states. And for the last 200 years, they had been fighting amongst themselves. Until the year 246 BC, when the hero of this story, Qin Shi Huang, became the ruler of Qin state at the ripe age of 13.
Of course, back then he was known by another name, because who would want to call a teenage boy the first god king from Qin Empire? Yet, don't let his young age fool you. From the moment he took power, he was a very effective ruler. And by effective, I mean he was good at taking care of his enemies. And once no one opposed him in his own Qin state, he moved east towards the other kingdoms.
One after another, Qin Shi Huang conquered all of his enemies, and in just 9 years he did something unthinkable. He unified China, and in the process came up with a new title for himself, Shi Huangde, which means something along the lines of first God King, or the first emperor.
But what did life look like in the newly found empire under the rule of a cruel warlord? Well, if we look around us, we can clearly see that his life was quite luxurious in palaces like this. However, this unification was also a turning point in Chinese history. Under Huang's rule, his empire prospered. From unifying the language and monetary system, to standardizing the measurement system and even roads. One step at a time, he turned China into an empire like never before seen in those lands.
Under the unified new system, trade flourished in the former states. And even the well-known Great Wall of China could be considered Qin Shi Huang's brainchild, because under his rule, the older parts of the wall that lie on the northern part of the country were unified into a more or less continuous structure.
This is 2 meters here, and see how many Joes can go to fill the wall. It's crazy.
Yet, are men ever happy, even though they've accomplished everything they've dreamt of? Well, no. Even after defeating all of his enemies and laying the foundation for the Chinese Empire, there was still one desire that guided the life of the God King.
You see, like many others through the ages, he really wanted to become immortal. And when I say really, I mean it became his one and only obsession. He had scholars and healers working in his court who gave him all kinds of potions and even something called cinnabar pills that he had to take on a daily basis. And all of this was supposed to prolong his life.
Qin Shi Huang sent out expeditions to foreign lands in search of the elixir of life. And of course, bathing in sacred hot springs and visiting holy places like this one on the Liisu mountain were part of his everyday routine.
Wherever there is water, it just steams so nicely here in the palace.
I do understand why he wanted to build his home next to the hot springs. The water is actually very warm and helping my cold hands.
Oh, and spoiler alert. Many historians actually believe that this cinnabar, a bright red form of mercury sulfate, was actually the reason why he died at the early age of 49. But how was his obsession with immortality connected to thousands of terracotta warriors, you may ask? Well, of course, such a wise emperor also had a plan B, you know, in case the mercury pills did not work.
And this plan B brings us to the place where this video began. Like many other cultures 2,000 years ago, ancient Chinese also believed in life after death.
However, for Qin Shi Huang, this meant trouble. You can probably understand that while forming an empire, he made a lot of enemies. And just imagine all of the people you have wronged waiting for you in the afterlife. Talk about skeletons in a closet, right? It sort of starts to make sense why he was so obsessed with immortality, I would say.
Therefore, Qin Shi Huang decided that the best solution for his inevitable problem would be to have the whole city with him in afterlife. He didn't only have 8,000 soldiers, but on an area the size of Manhattan, there were palaces, governmental buildings, guard towers and armories, and a resting place for the emperor himself.
And not surprisingly, all of the defensive structures were facing east, where the other kingdoms and his enemies used to be. And building all of this must have taken decades of work for thousands of people. But why is it that the world has only heard about the terracotta warriors and not... No, thank you. No, thank you. But why is it that the world has only heard about the terracotta warriors and not the tomb or its riches? And why haven't we opened Qin Shi Huang's final resting place until today? Well, this brings us to the last part of this video.
In 1974, this incredible place was discovered. And believe it or not, it was totally by chance. You see, some thirsty farmers were trying to dig a well, but at about a depth of 5 meters, they discovered a terracotta clay structure that turned out to be a warrior. While in total disbelief, they decided to notify the authorities, and the biggest digging operation in Chinese history began.
It's a vast pottery army which is slowly being unearthed from the tomb where it's lain for more than 2,000 years.
One after another, thousands of warriors came out of the ground. Officer statues were 2 meters tall. There was also archers, cavalry, and armories filled with 40,000 bronze weapons. A really crazy part about those warriors is that each and every one has its own face. It's not like one mold or fabrication, but it's all handmade and probably after a real army back in the day. Yet for me, the truly hard part to imagine was what might have been going on in the minds of the historians who suddenly realized that the more than 2,000 years old writings from Sima Qian, an ancient Chinese historian, could actually be true.
In his text, he described whole armies buried underground, with rivers of mercury, and even booby traps that would shoot arrows at intruders. But of course, any modern scientist would dismiss such outrageous claims. But by now we already know that at least the army part was true. And to add fuel to the fire, in 2020, a scientific research that was concluded around the tomb found that mercury levels in the atmosphere were 100 times higher than normal. So it is possible that there is 100 tons of that stuff in the tomb.
And of course, all of this has sparked many conspiracy theories.
They're so concerned, like trying to send a scientist through there and trying to open it up.
Some believe that there's a curse on the tomb and whoever enters will be, well, cursed forever. Others think that perhaps the scientists really just are afraid. And believe it or not, all of this makes for perfect headlines, which bring in thousands of readers and viewers each day. Yet, however Qin Shi Huang's life really sounds like a fairy tale, then there is a logical explanation to all of this.
You see, with modern hazmat suits, the mercury vapors aren't really a big problem. And even though the booby traps look really scary in movies, there is yet to be an engineer who would have been able to construct them so that they would still work after 2,200 years.
Yet the thing that we didn't talk about before was that when the warriors were first discovered, they were all painted in vibrant, lifelike colors. Clear whites made of crushed bones, greens, reds, and even extremely rare purple. But what the workers quickly realized was that when the statues came in contact with oxygen, the paint started peeling off in a matter of minutes. And so with it, destroying a part of history that we can never have back. So you could say that bringing this army to the modern world irreparably damaged it forever.
And to avoid the mistakes done by archaeologists in the past, where huge sections of history were destroyed, the Chinese government has decided that they will not open the tomb before they are absolutely sure that they have the right tools and technology to do it without damaging whatever lies inside Qin Shi Huang's final resting place. Or quote unquote, we are a big and ancient country. It doesn't matter if we need to wait another 200 years to do it right.
Well, and this was our video from China, Xi'An, what is perhaps the greatest archaeological discovery ever made. But what have we learned today? We have learned that if you eat mercury pills on a daily basis, you probably won't live too long.
We have also learned that you should be nice in order not to be afraid of the afterlife.
And perhaps most importantly, we have learned that even digging in the dirt requires patience. Friends, thank you for watching, and we will see you next time. Bye.
Bye.